everybody, I'm Margaret Moorehead, founder of the Virtual Sewing Guild, and welcome to another Expo expert interview. Today I'm here with Lindee Goodall of Lindee G Embroidery. Lindee, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Margaret? I'm excited for this.
These interviews have really been a lot of fun, and Lindee's going to be asking some of the top questions that she hears when she's teaching and doing her classes. But before I get started, I do want to give her a little introduction. Now, many of you may already know Lindee. She is the founder and former owner of Cactus Punch. She is a wonderful leader in the embroidery industry, and I have to tell you that I think she is the one that really raised the bar on the quality of embroidery that we have in the industry today. So personally, a thank you from me to you on that, Lindee. But right now, are you ready to answer some questions for everybody?
I am. Thank you for that great intro.
My pleasure. All right, so my first question is, how did you get started in this sewing industry?
Well, that's pretty interesting. I think most of us have some little seeds that get dropped on us, and they get watered or they die. And one of the seeds that got dropped on me was I was at a computer show, local Mac computer show, and this guy had this little embroidery machine, looked like an oversized stapler, and he was trying to sell it, but I didn't know what it did. It had these weird little cartridges with oversized bobbins in it, and he didn't have any samples. And all I could think of was, how do you do a lazy daisy on an embroidery machine? I was just still thinking handwork, and I just didn't get it. So I kept drifting over there, and my husband kept dragging me back. And I said, I just want to look. He says, I know how you look. So some time went by. I saw it demoed on Kay Wood's show. And they had it hooked to a Mac, and they were making a little rose, and they were stitching it out on her Janome. And I'm thinking, that's pretty cool. Another year went by. I saw it again. So see, I keep getting poked. And that time, I finally started looking for one. And it turned out to be the poem, and I bought one, and I just got really hooked on it. And my background is computers. I've been sewing since I was little. At the time, I had a FOF, so I could make decorative stitches on my machine, and it just all came together, and I just found my thing.
I love it. So you got in at the very beginning of the embroidery. That's fabulous. Now that
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
that was probably 1992 when I saw that machine for the first time. And then 93, I got the FOP, and 94, I got my first little embroidery machine. And 95, I got a 9-needle machine, and it went fast.
Yes, it did. So now we kind of know how you got into the embroidery itself. So how did you go to the digitizing part of it?
Well, I had taken a free motion class on my FOP, and I thought, and I was making little towels for Christmas with poinsettias, and I thought, there's got to be a way to optimize this, and where I can just do it on the computer and punch a button. And that was sort of the trigger for getting the machine. But I found that digitized embroidery is way different than free motion. So my first idea was I would, free motion and then kind of capture it and sew it out. Didn't quite work that way, but I just went from that programming mentality of no go-tos, no jumps, and tried to think logically and apply my art background. And at the time, we didn't have the internet. There was no YouTube. So there was nobody really that knew anything. And I just had to figure it out and test it, figure it out and test it. And that's how I got started.
Well, we're glad you got started because you are amazing at what you do. So thank you so much. Now, the next question that I know everyone would love to hear, there's so many different aspects of embroidery. So what is your favorite part of embroidery, and what is your least favorite part about embroidery?
Oh, by far the part I like best is digitizing. I like having that piece of artwork there and thinking, how can I interpret that? What can I do with it? It's like working a puzzle. And then once you decide what you're going to do with it, how can you do it as efficiently as possible with the fewest number of color changes? It's kind of like a maze. And that's what I like about it. And probably the least part I like is the sewing. Well, no, really the part I like least is making all the stuff that you have to do to get it up on the website. I mean, you have to do all these conversions, you have to color it, you have to write up the stuff. And I just really wish that I could pawn that off on somebody else.
And I totally get that. I think sometimes people don't realize that we get to do all the great fun stuff, but sometimes the office part of it and the business part of it isn't quite our love, but we do it because we love to share it with everybody.
Yeah, and that part can easily take a full day or more to do just that administrative part of getting it up there.
It does. And we appreciate you doing it though. Okay. So if somebody was going to just get into embroidery, do you have any advice that you could give them?
Well, first of all, get the biggest, baddest machine you can possibly afford. And don't worry about software at this point. You know, you might get some basic software for customizing and lettering, but don't get digitizing because you don't know what you want to do yet. You don't know what's out there. Get started with machine and stitch and watch. And pick a niche. You can't be everything for everybody. You can't be the woman who makes stuff for babies and weddings and everything in between. So find something that you really like, that you know your friends like, that you know you have a market for, and start doing that. And don't sell yourself short. There's too many places online where everybody's giving everything away, and it's just degrading the whole industry. There's no value left in it. And that's what's really hard. I mean, I see stuff for sale on Etsy that it's lower than what it would cost to make it. How can you survive on that? You can't. And the other thing is, get a coach. I don't care if it's an embroidery coach or a business coach or a life coach, get a coach. They can make a world of difference. And if you get partners, choose them carefully. They can do you in.
Yeah. Well, that's excellent advice. So I think we kind of went from being a home embroiderer to being in business. So, so do you have any other advice? I know so many people do get into this. They start as they're going to do it for fun, and then they give it to their friends, and then they do end up with a business. So that was a perfect transition. What other, you said get a coach and be careful with your partners. Do you have any other advice in that regard?
Use quality materials. Make sure you're using quality needles, quality threads, quality stabilizers, and don't believe everything you see on YouTube. Learn from people that have been in the industry. Take paid classes. There are paid classes online that you don't have to go anywhere for. Come to free classes like the Expo, and you can get a lot of information there from people that know what they're doing. And I'm really convinced that once you get an embroidery machine, you're in business because people start asking you for stuff. And if you're making stuff for somebody else, you're in business whether you're giving it away or not.
That's very, very true. And yeah, once you get into embroidery, you know, you're in it for yourself, you're in it for others. It's fabulous. So you have a fabulous class going on for the Expo, and I'd like you to share just a little bit about it in case people haven't watched it yet.
Okay, so it's called Professional Pointers for Pucker Prevention, which is a mouthful. And I got that idea. I was toying around with different things. Last year I did freestanding lace, which was really popular, and you can see on my YouTube channel. But this year I decided to pick something that would apply to most embroiderers at some point, and all of us get puckers at some point. And the thing is, there's no just one cause, and there's no just one cure. There's a lot. And so I thought I could do it in one video and then do something else in my other video, but it took so much that I split it up to 2 videos. So both of my sessions are totally content heavy on how to avoid puckers.
Ah, well, thank you so much, because that is something that, like you said, we all struggle with at one time or another. And I said it at the beginning of this interview, and I want to reiterate it. Lindee is absolutely one of the best in the best of the industry, and any information she gives you is going to lead you to fabulous results. So again, Lindee, thank you so much. Well, Lindee has a webpage. It's lindeeembroidery.com. That's LindeeG Embroidery.com, and the address is right under here, and there's a link that you can just click on to get there also. It's filled with great stuff. Of course, she's got a store, so you can make some purchases and get some wonderful embroidery stuff. It has a frequently asked questions page, which is great, and it has her blog on it. So head on over to lindeegembroidery.com and check it out.
Thank you, Margaret. And thank you for doing these expos. I mean, this is so nice to not have to drag all this stuff across the country and set up in some booth and stand on your feet on a concrete floor and just, you know, you can do this and much more relaxed. And then for all the people attending too, they don't have to walk around on the concrete floor.
Well, thank you. And my goal as the Virtual Sewing Guild, which is the host or whatever of the Virtual Sewing, Quilting, and Embroidery Expo, is to always give quality information, to only bring the best of the industry to everyone. And I appreciate being able to do this. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'm so glad you're part of this Expo interview. From my sewing machine to yours, happy creating.